Greetings everyone, I am RSV. Here is my guide to Retem equipment. It will be broken down into weapons, armors, and augments. We will start with weapons. With the release of Retem, we have been gifted 5 new weapon series. Gothica, Quintel, Fivla, Greaga, and Relik. At a baseline, all 4 of these series will output more than Straga. I tested with Fivla, the weakest potential of the 4, versus my Straga bow on the Trainier dinosaur. My results were, my Straga with Fixer 2 was barely beating my non-fixed Fivla bow on critical hit, meaning moving to higher level enemies the weapon damage baseline should cause them to scale further ahead. Going into the individual weapons however. First we have Greaga. The Greaga series consists of all weapons. Has the second highest base power, but the lowest potential base power at 20%, against non-boss enemies. The weapon goes up to 24% against bosses, but you may want to use another weapon series for consistency, or switch between this one and another series. The base power difference between this one and the following 3 series is 3 points, which is less than a 1.25% increase over the next entries in attack power. It does not equate to a similar amount of damage increase however. Gothica covers the wire lance, soaring blades, daggers, rifle, and rod. Its level 4 potential is potency plus 23%, PP plus 10% when you hit an enemy while under 50% PP, 15 second cooldown. This weapon series is competitive with Greaga. Despite having 3 less base damage, the extra 10 PP equates to having 10 extra PP every PA dump cycle, which would suggest the 2 weapons are fairly close in overall DPS. However, it is hard to quantitate how much damage having extra PP gives you. Quintel. The Quintel series covers the sword, knuckles, katana, PNG, palace, and jet boots. The level 4 potential is potency plus 23%, creates a barrier that provides damage resistance plus 50%, and disappears upon taking damage. 30 second cooldown. Quintel can allow the player to survive hits from Gigantics that would otherwise one-shot the player. It is slightly weaker than the Greaga series, but I'd still argue it's still viable. Fivla. This series covers the spear, saber, launcher, bow, and wand, while having the lowest percentage potential against bosses at 21%. The series benefits from more frequent critical hits. The potential causes crits to happen, I'd estimate, between 1/6 and 1/5 of the time, on average, either which would push these weapons' DPS above the Greaga series in terms of damage. The crit occurrence is also fairly predictable, as the more hits you do will eventually lead to a crit. Although these are only estimates as well, I am fairly confident that these estimates are relative to the actual damage power, and that the Fivla will outdamage the Greaga. If anyone wants to try to prove this wrong, however, please let me know by submitting me a testable process and the hard math. If you send me a video of damage numbers, I will ignore it and dismiss it. I need to see the math. Otherwise, last but not least, we have the Relik series. The Relik series is a unique series of weapons that has a unique look for all weapons inside it. As I am currently writing this video, the series currently covers these weapons. Make sure to check the wiki for updates to the list I will be making here. However, if there are significant additions to the list of Relik weapons, like for example they have an additional potential, I will release another video as an update to this one on the Relik series. This series has at least 4 different potentials, and all weapons in this category have 4 more base damage than the Greaga series. Here are the potentials. Vigorous Unit. Increases potency by 27%, damage resistance by 10%, rest assign healing by 20%, on a 10-second delay. Explosive Unit. Plus 21% potency, causes AoE damage when you hit an enemy every 10 seconds. Harmonious Unit. Plus 18% potency, critical rate plus 15%, critical rate increased by an additional 10% when HP is at or above 80%. And finally, imbued unit, plus 27% potency, minus 10% PP consumption, and plus 20% PP recovery while attacking. If your weapon has vigorous unit or imbued unit, it is likely your best in slot, assuming that vigorous unit isn't delaying the potency damage, of course, as it is no longer your best in slot potentially for speedrunning. I could also be wrong there. If explosive unit hits for at least 40% potency, in other words, function as an attack that hits for at least 40% of your damage value, it will outdamage Greaga by 1%. As for Harmonious unit, the weapon increases your crit rate from 1/20th to 6/20th. For this weapon to be best in slot, 6/20th needs to increase DPS by a minimum of 6% to be above Greaga. Is it better? Probably. Your damage will probably still be fairly variable though, and this applies to Fivla as well. Even if these weapons are mathematically better, doesn't mean you will get good rolls all the time, so use crit rate with that in mind. Onto armors. Retem has also dropped quite a few 5-star rarity armors. Unlike weapons, however, the armors aren't necessarily upgrades in offensive category. In fact, if your weapon of choice happens to be Quintel, and you already have a full set of Giant armor, you may want to consider not upgrading to Greas armors in the first place, but I will go through the best of the new armors and compare them. Vital plus Vidalun. This tier is purely defensive. Vidalun armor is significantly better than Vidal in my opinion, however. 25 extra HP should outscale 2 defense per armor piece. Vios plus the Vialto plus Quality Armor series. Vios is a new armor series that has 8 PP and 1% all potency. This series is a direct upgrade from Quality Armor series. It is slightly worse defensively than Vialto series, however, with 25 less HP, about double the attack power in all categories, plus additional PP. Greas vs Gant armor. Greas armor is a slightly upgraded version of Gant armor, featuring 3 more PP and 5 more raw defense than Gant armor. Greas is better, but if you are using Gant, it isn't wholly necessary to upgrade to Greas. So, I would vote to do this at your discretion. It is also easier to farm Fixer for Gant armor if you have not already. Vich armor and Bielsel armor. These two armors are niche armors. The former is plus 30 HP and plus 4 PP, while Vossel is plus 14 PP and plus 20% all elemental resistance. These aren't that useful in my opinion, but there may be a situation in the future where the Vielsel is useful. There is a lot of PP on Vielsel, but Grease has plus 13, and is significantly better offensively. Augment. There are new augments in Retem as well, and I will go over them in their individual categories. Renus and Dust Souls. These are similar to Raga Soul, but for tech and melee power. You are still likely to use Datal or Next Soul for your soul slot for PP, however. Ret Domina and Ret Note series. Ret Domina is similar to Ale Domina, except it focuses on HP and has no additional PP. Otherwise, there is Alno Note and Makia Note, which don't really change anything. They have interesting effects, but they're not really meta-defining. Outsecretor free and Dreadkeeper free. These two augments have leveled up. Dreadkeeper has gained additional HP, potency floor, damage resistance, and PP. Alt-Secretor, however, has gained additional potency and potency floor. Dreadkeeper is more viable as a defensive and offensive option. It is still fairly weak offensively, however. The extra PP does make it a bit better, and it is still a good option to include if your budget allows for it. However, there are still better offensive options. Alt-Secretor, however, is a lot more viable, having 2% potency. Form Soul free. Ranged and tech potency have gained Form Soul. These new souls scale up to rank 3, and always increase your potency by 2%. Damage resistance scales up to 2.5%. You are, as I've said before though, more likely to use Hetus and Next Souls here, as you gain PP from those souls. If you want assistance building your augment set, there is a link to my first video on the matter in the top corner. I may do a proper Retem build later once I have the resources. However, what I say in that video should still be relevant here, as the augment field has not changed significantly. If you have any objections to anything I say here, or want to prove me wrong via math, please let me know. And use the format of giving me a replicatable test and math to back up your information. And, as I've said in my last video, if in this format you do submit a superior and more correct bit of information, I will re-upload this video, correct it, and credit you. Otherwise, if you like my video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I have been RSV, and I will see you next time. More guide content incoming.